You know, I look at the political panoply today. I look at the parties that are involved in politics in the United Kingdom. I look at the rise of nationalism in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, in Wales, and we have nationalists in government in all three devolved regions now in the United Kingdom. In Scotland, they're in charge. In Wales, they are in coalition. In Northern Ireland, they are in coalition. And of course, their objective is to dismember the United Kingdom. Now, as Unionists, we need to recognise that if the United Kingdom is dismembered in that way, then it fulfills a purpose, which is to remove the concept of the nation state. Now, in saying that, I'm not a narrow British nationalist. I believe that Britain has to take its place in the world, play its role in international affairs, and be a force for good in the world. And it has been. But how can it be in the future if the concept of the nation state is diminished to the point where we effectively don't really have a nation state anymore? And therefore, I believe that the need for unionism and what we stand for is greater than it's ever been, because the threat to the union is perhaps greater than it has ever been, and maybe not from those that we regard as the traditional sources of that threat. Therefore, Philip, I believe that it is essential that the unionist movement recognises the need to be more coherent and more effective in its defence of the union and its benefits. I see the debate going on in Scotland, and it worries me greatly, because there is undoubtedly a protest vote in Scotland which is giving Scottish nationalism increasing support. I don't think many of the people who vote for the SNP are necessarily voting for the disintegration of the union. But Alex Salmond and his colleagues are very clever in the way that they present themselves. And there's a very real risk there that unionism is going to lose by default. We need strong voices, and I've been to the Scottish Conservative Conference. I've advocated that we need to come together. We in Northern Ireland, who have, I suppose, been on the cutting edge of the battle for the union over the last 3 decades, recognise what needs to be done. And we are happy to stand with our colleagues in the Conservative and Unionist Party, whether it's in Scotland, England or Wales, or indeed in Northern Ireland. We're happy to stand with you and to take a platform to defend the union. But quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I have yet to hear Mr Cameron give a strong defence for the union. I've yet to hear the leadership of the Conservative Party really put forward the strong case for the union. And it needs to be put forward. If we're relying on Gordon Brown, it isn't going to happen. The Conservative and Unionist Party must become more than Conservative and Unionist with a small u. It has to embrace the need for a strong unionist platform across the United Kingdom. Perhaps after the next election, the Conservative and Unionist Party will be in a very, very pivotal position. But it needs to utilise that position. And that means going to Europe and standing up for our people. It means saying that this creeping European integration has gone on far enough. And maybe it means saying no to Lisbon. Because Lisbon, I believe, in many ways will mark a new escalation in the undermining of our freedoms as British citizens and of our British way of life. And I think that the Conservative and Unionist Party can provide that strong leadership. And those of us who belong to the smaller Unionist parties are willing to stand with you in that battle. But it needs that leadership. And I hope that that leadership will be forthcoming. Very often in Northern Ireland, when we were in the dark, dark days of what became known as the Troubles, and we had successive governments say to us that, you know, you really ought to negotiate a peace, to bring peace to Northern Ireland. Of course, we strongly desired to have peace in Northern Ireland, but we were not prepared to have peace at any price. And we made clear that we wanted peace and we wanted freedom, but we would not have peace if the price was freedom. And I think that has to be the case for all of us here. We want to see the United Kingdom flourishing. We want to see a strong nation taking its place among the nations of the world, making a positive contribution to the well-being of people across the world. But we need the United Kingdom to be a strong nation. Scotland will never be a strong nation on its own. England will never be a strong nation on its own. Northern Ireland could never be a strong nation on its own, and Wales could never be a strong nation on its own. But together, the four parts of the United Kingdom, in my opinion, make one of the strongest nations in the world. A force for good in this world, a force for good that helps to stand against those who bring the forces of evil to bear. But we won't have a United Kingdom if we don't defend the Union, for the Union is the United Kingdom. In conclusion, therefore, I believe that the battle for our freedom in this country is also wrapped up with the battle to maintain the integrity of the Union of the United Kingdom. When we lose that, then this place becomes a weaker and poorer place for it, and we will be even more susceptible to what those who are the architects of this European superstate are seeking to do. Well, we all know where that's going. And I dread to think what that will do for our personal and individual freedom in the future. So this is a battle that we are joined in, ladies and gentlemen, but it's a battle we need to take forward. At the moment, it's nationalism, and it's the advocates of a European superstate who are on the front foot, we are on the back foot, and I think it's time we change direction. Thank you.